One of the most beautiful aspects of Yosemite National Park is just watching the sun dance on those rocks. Psalm 65 says that God is awesome. He formed the mountains by his power. And we see that, don't we? The grandeur of mountains always make us think of God's strength and his power. And when I reflect on displays of God's awesome strength and beauty, my mind goes right to Yosemite. John Muir, who fought to make it a national park, once said, "No sacred temple made with hands can compare with Yosemite. Every rock seems to glow with life." I remember visiting the park in the 1980s. It was late afternoon, and I was sitting in a grassy meadow, and I looked up to see the sun casting long, straight shadows across the rocks. It looked as though they were glowing with life, those rocks, and I felt as though I were in a cathedral, that sacred temple that John Muir wrote about. And staring at that breathless scene, I was enthralled. Once again, inspired by God's creative genius in nature, I decided to render a watercolor of that late afternoon scene. I cannot control watercolors when they are super wet, at least using brushes between my teeth. So it was a challenge to paint these long, straight strokes required for the high cliffs. Okay, but this is how I did it. I got the brush wet, but not too wet. I inhaled deeply, exhaled slowly, laid the brush on the paper, and then painting each section of the cliff in one continuous stroke. And here you've got the sun, probably over here somewhere, and it's cutting long, very straight shadows across the rocks. In fact, if you look close, you can see some of the shadows in the upper clefts of the rock. And on one or two of these trees on the foreground, you can see those same straight shadows right across the tops of the trees. And this gives a sense of bright sunshine. When shadows are crisp and clear and linear, it gives that sense of a very bright sun. So again, you're not painting the sun, you're painting the shadows in such a way as to convey a very bright sunlit day. Part of the challenge of painting water is not painting it. What you paint are the subtle suggestions of the reflection of the subject matter. In this case, it is these mountains, and it's that little brown manzanita bush in the foreground. So I did not use the true colors in either the bush or the mountains, but I watered them down to look a little misty, and then with just very subtle strokes on extremely wet watercolor paper, I got that impression of a reflection. Again, you don't paint the water, you just paint the subject matter reflected in it. I mean, I had to get it right. If I got it wrong, the painting would be ruined. And after finishing each section and before painting the next, I would say to myself, "Oh, I can do this. I can do all things through Christ, who not only strengthens me, but relaxes me, especially my neck muscles." And the result looks rather close to that glorious afternoon in Yosemite.